Hello everyone. Do you know that there is a calendar used by over 30 million people of Nepal, but the details of how it works is unknown to many? Yes, we'll be talking about Nepal Sambat calendar today. Stay tuned. Nepal is a country in South Asia sandwiched between India and China in the foothills of Himalayas. It is rich in its history and heritage with strong ethnic, cultural and linguistic diversity. Most of the festivals and cultural events, including birthdays and weddings, are celebrated in Nepal using a calendar called Nepal Sambat. But the details of how it works is hidden in old manuscripts and not widely known to the public. If you ask someone when Vijaya Dasami, the most important festival of Nepal, falls next year or the year after, you'll find some confused faces. Actually, it always falls in Kaula Thom month on day 10 of it. So today we are going to talk about how to calculate these tithis and dates used in the Nepal Sambat calendar. Before we go into the details of calculations, let's briefly talk about the history of Nepal Sambat. Nepal Sambat was established in 879 CE during the reign of King Raghavdeva. It is also believed that it was established to commemorate a day when Sankhada Sakwa, a merchant from Kathmandu Valley, relieved the country of all of its debts. It defied all the normal traditions of naming a calendar or an era after a king, a popular person, or a religion. Nepal Sambat is named after the country itself. NS was the most prevalent calendar of Nepal for more than 1000 years. It is only since 1903 that then Prime Minister Chandra Shamsher enforced Bikram Sambat as the official calendar of Nepal, sidelining Nepal Sambat. The state policies pushed Nepal Sambat to the brink of extinction because the younger generations were not being taught about it or being even informed about it. The people of Nepal, especially the Neva community of Kathmandu Valley, started demanding the recognition of Nepal Sambat as the national calendar of Nepal in 1980s and 1990s. NS was finally recognized as the national era of Nepal in 2008. Because of this heavy involvement of Neva community, the Nepal Sambat has started being labeled as a Newar calendar or a Newari calendar, but it is not true. It is the calendar named after the country, and it is equally used by every other ethnic group in their daily lives to celebrate their festivals and to celebrate their cultural events. Everyone in Nepal celebrates Dasai in Kaula Thom month from day 1 Paru or Pratipada to day 10 Dasami. So let's dive down into how these tithis can be calculated. NS is a lunisolar calendar. It depends on the movement of the sun, the moon, the earth and the stars. It takes into account that the solar and lunar motions vary in speed across the celestial sphere. So what makes a calendar? A day, a month and a year, right? So let's start with a day. A day in Nepal Sambat or Tithi depends on the movement of moon around the earth. It is defined as the duration of time taken by the moon to traverse by 12 degrees from the perspective of an observer on Earth. So we will need a starting reference point, which is taken as the new moon. That is when the day 1 of the month starts. New moon is the time when the Earth, the moon and the sun are in the same straight line in the celestial sphere. From the perspective of an observer on Earth, we can only see the non-illuminated part of the moon on that day. So that's why it's called new moon. The moon revolves around the Earth in about 27 days. It is called sidereal month. But when moon is moving around the Earth is also moving around the sun in its orbit. So the moon will require an additional time to get to the next new moon, and it is called synodic month. It takes about 29.53 days for the moon to go from new moon to the next new moon. This is the duration of time taken as the month in the NS calendar. On top of that, the moon moves faster when it's closer to the earth, and it moves slower when it's away from the earth because it's revolving around in the elliptical path, and the same with the earth. These nuances create complications when a tithi can be longer or shorter in any given day. A month can be longer or shorter in any time of the year. And the tithis can overlap on the same solar day during our 24-hour cycle. So to avoid this confusion of having multiple Tithis on the same 24-hour cycle or a solar day, NS injects an idea of utilizing sunrise as the point of reference. Whatever Tithi the moon was on at the time of sunrise, the whole day takes the name after it. So the time of sunrise is very important for the computation of Tithis in Nepal Sambat. The sun rises at different times at different places, so the reference location is very important. Nepal Sambat uses the location of Kalbhairav at Hanmantoka, Kathmandu as the reference point for the time of sunrise. Kal means time. Using the longitudes and latitudes of this location, the time of sunrise can easily be computed, the details of which are here. Now let's talk about the lunar phase angle. The lunar phase can be computed by taking the difference between the lunar and the solar longitudes. The lunar and the solar longitudes are basically the relative positions of the moon and the sun from the perspective of an observer on Earth. So on the new moon, they are equal, making their difference to be 0. So the lunar phase angle being from 0 till 12 is the day 1. Till 24 is day 2. From 24 to 36 is day 3, and so on with the multiples of 12. And these give the Tithis. For example, at the time of the sunrise, let's say at 6:15 a.m. in the morning, the lunar phase angle is at 13 degrees. Then we know that it falls between 12 and 24, making it day 2 or Dvitiya. If it was 28, it will be day 3 because it falls between 24 and 36. Now the Tithis can be repeated. For example, today at sunrise, the lunar phase angle was at 13 degrees. And tomorrow at sunrise, the lunar phase angle is at 23 degrees, making tomorrow as well day 2. Now, to avoid this confusion of having two same days on two consecutive solar days, we add 8 to indicate that it is a repeated date. So today it will be day 2, tomorrow it will be day 2.8. Now the Tithis can be skipped as well. For example, the lunar phase angle today at sunrise is 23 degrees, making it day 2. And tomorrow at sunrise, the lunar phase angle is at 38 degrees, making it day 4, skipping day 3 altogether. To avoid this confusion, we add 9 to the day that was skipped. So the day tomorrow will be day 4.9. So in summary, the lunar phase angle is the difference between lunar and solar longitudes. The lunar phase angle at the time of sunrise divided by 12 gives us the Tithi of that day. Since the lunar phase angle can go from 0 to 360 degrees, there can be a maximum of 30 days in a given month in NS calendar. The first 15 days, that is the days from the new moon to the full moon, are grouped together as Thopaksha, and the next 15 days, the days from full moon to the next new moon, are marked as Gapaksha in NS calendar. The Thopaksha indicates that the month is getting brighter, and the Gapaksha indicates that the days are getting darker. So this is how the Pakshas are defined in NS calendar. Now let's move on to the months. As we discussed earlier, a month in NS calendar starts at new moon. On the new moon day, whichever solar month was, the whole month takes the name after it. The solar month is simply the solar longitude divided by 12. So there are usually 12 months in NS calendar as well. The list of the 12 months are listed here. Now what happens if two new moons have the same solar month? And this happens occasionally, almost every 3 years. This is because the moon revolves around the earth in about 29.53 days, making a lunar year to be around 354 days. The solar year is 365 days. This makes the lunar year 11 days shorter than the solar year. So in 3 years, it will be behind by 30 days or a whole month. To adjust this, NS injects an idea to introduce a whole new month added to the year so that it can catch up to solar seasons. This is called Anala. And how do we calculate this Anala? Just like I said earlier, if two new moons have the same solar month, then the second one is called Anala, or the leap month. Sometimes a whole month might be skipped as well. This happens when the solar month does not consist of any new moons, or two new moons are separated by the solar calendars which differ by 2. This is called Nhala. The concept of Anala and Nhala, or the leap month and the skip month, helps adjust the lunar cycles to be in sync with the solar seasons. Obviously, you wouldn't want the autumn festivals like Dasai and Tihar to be celebrated in spring, would you? Now moving on to the years. Computing years is pretty straightforward as in any other calendar. Using any known epoch date, we can calculate the number of years that has passed since then and get to the current year or the year that the day falls on. NS is about 800 years behind Saka era. The formulation of how year can be computed can be found here. Now, let's combine all of these calculations into one representation so that we can get a NS date. It is over here. It is simply a year followed by a month, followed by an indicator showing if a month is Anala 3, Nhala 4, or regular one 0. Then followed by Paksha, which is 1 if it's a Tho, it's 2 if it's a Ga. Then we have days, which can be a number from 1 till 15. After that, we have an indicator indicating if a day is repeated 8 or skipped 9. And after that, day of the week. Using this representation, any day can be represented in NS calendar. And this can be used for any calculations further along to convert the dates to and from NS dates. As you can see, it is pretty straightforward to calculate the NS date. Using this approach, we can find the NS date of any given day in the past or in the future. In the end, I would like to express some of my opinions surrounding this calendar. Number 1, I think that this calendar should not be represented as a Newari calendar or a calendar specific to Neva community. This is the calendar named after the country itself, and almost everyone in Nepal uses this calendar knowingly or unknowingly. So it is not right to term this calendar as a Newari calendar. Number 2, proper documentation is very important to keep up with the digital era. The details of how Nepal Sambat works should not be hidden in old manuscripts or controlled by a small group of people. Even till date, the calendar is not published until few weeks before the New Year's Day. Proper documentation is necessary not only to preserve its culture and heritage, but also to standardize the technology parameters. I have attempted to dissect this calendar from a scientific view. You enjoyed learning about it. If you are interested in more details, there is a detailed document in the link in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. Till next time, namaste.